Greetings all and welcome back to the MACMA Minute. I'm your host, Brandon Jones, and in today's newsletter episode, we are talking IEC conference, and we're talking about the political season and a few tips for parents and caregivers and what we can do to help the young people in our lives deal with this current political climate that we're in as we head into the election. But first, let's get into our infant and early childhood multidisciplinary conference, which is taking place on November 17th through the 19th this year. This is our 7th annual IEC Multidisciplinary Conference, and this year's conference is being held at Minneapolis, Marriott, Northwest, and Brooklyn Park. We are excited. We're going to have a lot of people there. We're expecting over 600 people currently, and we want to give a special shout out to DHS, the Department of Human Services, who's supporting us with a significant amount of scholarships to make sure we can have as many people there as possible so they can have this nice, enriching learning experience. Currently, we have about 365 scholarships for clinicians and nearly another 100 scholarships for folks in other disciplines to attend this conference. So, amazing opportunity to connect, build community, and join this professional home for all folks who work with young people. A few other things we want to mention about the conference is we do have some availability open, but you need to hurry and come and register. Things are filling up pretty fast, so if you want to be a part of this great opportunity, please join us as soon as possible for the IEC conference. Another way for you to join us at the 7th annual Infant and Early Childhood Multidisciplinary Conference is by becoming a sponsor. Right now, we're seeking partnerships with organizations and companies to help not only just broaden our reach, but also create this professional home for folks who do this work. You can expand your reach by tapping into a new audience and getting your organization or company in front of more than 20,000 people within the field of early childhood and mental health when you become an advertising partner with us for this conference. For more information, check us out at our website, www.macmh.org. All right, we are very close to election time. This has been one of the most political, in-your-face years that we've seen in a long time, and young people are responding. I've had folks reach out to me directly, folks connect with us through various different programs to ask us what are our thoughts on assisting young people with processing their emotions during this political season. So what we did was we curated a few ideas to help you engage with not just your young people in your life, but also with adults as well, because we don't know what's going to happen. And whatever happens, we still have to live our lives and we still have to adjust no matter how this political season unfolds. So what we're going to do today is talk a little bit about how parents and caregivers can support young people during the election season. So the political season can be challenging for everyone, but teens in particular are very subjectable to the emotional toll of today's polarizing and intense political environment. They're talking about it at school, they're talking about it online, they're talking about it in the community. It's happening. We probably have a collective group of young people that have been more engaged politically, more vocal about where they stand and where they don't stand than probably any time in American history. So we're seeing new things that we haven't been challenged with before. So a lot of parents are stressed out. A lot of people are wondering, what should we do? A lot of caregivers and even professionals are wondering, what's our place in this as well? So here are a few quick tips to just kind of help wrap your minds around this, ease your stress a little bit, and potentially help navigate this current season. The first tip is this: create a safe space or comfortable enough space for open dialogue. Now, open dialogue doesn't mean coming to an agreement or a conclusion. It just means that there's an opportunity for conversation to happen. A lot of times people feel like they don't have a voice, or they're in echo chambers. They're in spaces where people share the same sentiments and the conversation can become very circular. By being a parent, caregiver, youth worker, or just an adult that cares, one of the things that we can do is just provide a space for people to get their voice out there no matter where they sit or what they agree with upon your thoughts. So it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if they agree, if they disagree, but just being able to have a space to talk is a very important piece where people don't feel attacked. And if they do get uncomfortable, they consider that discomfort without being harmed. So that's number one. Number two, limit media exposure. So we're in a 24/7 news cycle. It happens all the time. I mean, news hits us. It's in our notifications. It's on the podcast that we listen to. It's the influencers talk about it. We watch the news. It's everywhere. It's the small talk that we get into. The news is all over the place. So you have to be very intentional about limiting your exposure to the news, checking out what matters to you, and then only leaning into as much of it as you need to. Sometimes we just get oversaturated with information. Sometimes the information is not accurate, and we get into gossip and narratives that aren't true, and that can also impact our stress levels. So it's important that we don't feed into it too much, and check our sources as well. But limit that media exposure as best as you can. Number 3, encourage critical thinking over emotional reaction. Now, this is a hard one because a lot of political conversations are driven by emotions. A lot of politics are driven by emotions. I've listened to talks from both sides of the speeches from both sides of the aisles over the past few weeks. And it's interesting how people emotionally respond to the things that are being stated. Even if they've been stated almost similarly on both ends, there's emotional reaction. That's part of the human condition. We're all human. We all respond emotionally. However, being critical and being able to think about what we're responding to is a key in maintaining our well-being during this time. Some people get so over emotional and so overwhelmed by their emotions that they have to tap out. They get into a space of burnout. They get into a place of quiet quitting where they don't want to engage at work because the politics are too heavy, or they don't want to engage in their friend groups. They start to lose a little bit of joy. So it's important for us to think through these things as best as we can. All right, number 4, model emotional regulation. So yeah, it's important to say that we need to take care of our emotions, but what does it look like? And it looks different for different people. But as a healthy adult who's trying to show a young person something different, it's very important for you to model emotional regulation, which means you need to know how to do that, which means it also takes practice and discipline in taking care of yourselves. So just not overreacting to situations. Don't let your anxiety get the best of you. And if it does happen, if you do overreact, or if your anxiety does get the best of you, how do you bring yourself back from that? What are the things that you're doing? Are you practicing mindfulness techniques? Are you utilizing relaxation techniques or items? Are you utilizing deep breathing? Are you taking a walk? Are you taking a hard, time out from social media and devices? What are the things that you need to do to model good emotional regulation is something that we should all be thinking about, because even if we're not engaging in dialogue with the young people in our lives, they're still watching, they're paying attention, they're picking up on things, and they're making their own conclusions if those conversations aren't happening. All right, number 5, encourage involvement, but don't put pressure on the young person. So you may want to politically engage in dialogue. You may be creating that safe space. You may even be, showing that emotional regulation. But if the young person's resistant, they don't want to talk about it, it's okay. You don't have to force the issue. Sometimes forcing the issue just makes things a lot worse. And why does this matter? Well, young people are forming their own identities. They're forming their own opinions. And we need to allow some autonomy for them to engage in how they want to engage, which is why when you do have the dialogue, it's okay if they don't have the same viewpoints as yourself. Let them think it out to the best of their ability without that judgment and without that harm. I think a lot of times as the quote-unquote authority in young people's lives, we want to force them to understand and think things a particular way, but it doesn't always work that way. So be very, very careful at forcing outcomes and thought processes and narratives with young people, because it might not turn out the way you want it to be. Number 6, two more. Number 6, keep the focus on core values, not just politics. This is a big one. In this political climate, we are very us versus them is probably the best way to say it. We like to separate ourselves as best as possible, and we are very polarized in our political identities, which can be very toxic for people, especially young people who are just forming those identities, where they feel like they have to choose a side instead of being transparent and kind to one another, or having empathy, or even being, fair and having just practices or building a community with people just because they don't politically align. So I think it's better to focus on core values, which sometimes does relate to politics, but overall, core values is where a lot of people can connect, not just their political identity. So Help young people understand what their values are. Help by displaying what your values are and sharing. That may be a way to build more of a bridge than create the gaps that we're currently seeing in our political climate. And then number 7, watch for signs of stress and burnout. Believe it or not, young people can get burnt out by politics just like adults. I've heard just recently at least 3 people in my personal life who said they can't wait till the election to be over because they're just tired of talking about it, which I can understand. And I somewhat agree. They're just ready to just move on. And I can only imagine how young people who are politically active, who have school and activities and friends and dating and all these other things going on, how they may feel too. They may just want the results to be what they are so they can move on and live their lives. So it's important for us to just watch out for the stress, watch out for the burnout, pay attention to the symptoms. If people are losing their appetite, they're changing their sleeping patterns completely 180 from what they used to be. If they're disassociating, from people, if they are, or they may be actually sending signals to you that things are not well. They may be writing messages that are encrypted or making comments that they normally don't make. Pay attention to how people are responding to this time, because sometimes they may signal something that we're just not paying attention to, and we may miss how they truly feel or that call for help that they truly need. So with that, my final thoughts are this. The election season is a challenging time for everyone, but with mindful support, you can help young people navigate the political landscape in a way that protects their mental and emotional well-being. By staying engaged, fostering open communication, and providing a calm, balanced perspective, you can help reduce their stress and guide them towards healthy coping strategies during this political season. So take care of yourself no matter how this thing shakes out. We still have lives to live. Let's live them as well as we can. So be safe, be constructive, and be well. And we'll see you next time. Take care.